Jurassic World Dominion is currently the final entry in the Jurassic Park franchise. I say currently because these movies make so much money, there's really no reason to believe they won't try to milk this cow once again at some point down the road. It's a movie that goes to some really weird places and serves as an example of what the original Jurassic Park tried to tell us 30 years ago. Digging up the past isn't always a good idea. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Now, I covered the other Jurassic World movies a few years ago. I thought they were complete garbage. Now, some people said that I should try and reserve judgment until the conclusion of the trilogy. Well, now that I've seen all three movies, I can honestly say
that is one big pile of shit.
Now, even though I thought Jurassic World was just kind of a crappy retread of Jurassic Park, I will give it credit for being a movie about dinosaurs. But this movie is mostly about an evil Tim Cook and some bugs. The story takes place 4 years after all the crap that happened in Fallen Kingdom, and now the world really is Jurassic World, with dinosaurs just a part of everyday life, apparently. Owen and Claire are raising Maisie in a cabin in the mountains, where Maisie spends her days chopping wood and advising the crew at this lumber mill on how to get rid of the dinosaurs that are getting in the way. Claire is, a dinosaur freedom fighter activist, and Owen is some kind of a dino wrangler, which he's actually really good at because of his incredible ability to get dinosaurs to stop in their tracks by holding up his hand. Just think of how many lives could have been saved over the years with this one simple trick. Of course, there's people out there looking to capture Maisie, and they managed to do that, but it's okay because the CIA is here to help. But hang on a sec, there's an even bigger problem to worry about. Is it the fact that dinosaurs are just roaming free across the planet? No, it's giant locusts. Which is weird, considering how the last movie ended. You'd think that this movie might take place shortly after that and focus on human beings having to deal with dinosaurs suddenly being all over the place. Since, based on everything we've seen, they're kind of a threat. Time and time again, this franchise has shown us what happens when you put people and dinosaurs together. Now you have the opportunity to show what that conflict would look like on a global scale, but instead the movie dampens that right from the beginning with this half-assed explanation.
Many of the larger predators were captured, but the remaining creatures scattered here.
Okay, so we took care of most of the big ones, and yes, there's a bunch of others still roaming around causing shit all over the place. It's not that big of a deal. Just deal with it. That's how life is now, okay? But these giant bugs, we really gotta look into that. That's strange. Better call in Ellie Sattler, and just so that there's no confusion on if it's actually her, she's wearing the same clothes. I guess it's true what they say, At some point, you just pick a style that works. 30 years ago, after Jurassic Park, she was just like, you know what, I think that's it. I mean, yeah, it was a traumatic experience and it really sucked, but the outfit was really working. But of course, she can't do it alone. She needs to get the opinion of Alan Grant. And with that, the formula is complete. Take a franchise that has been dead for a while, bring it back to life by telling a story that is basically a crappier version of the original, bring back the old characters, and make a ton of money without really having to do anything new or creating anything close to what made the original so iconic in the first place. From a business perspective, I can't really blame the studios. I mean, if it works, it works. It might not work all the time, but when it does, like in this case, it's extremely profitable. And the funny thing is, I feel like I keep saying this because it keeps happening. But from a moviegoer's perspective, I feel like I'm just being sold the same thing over and over again. There's only so far you can stretch some of these franchises before you start having to take things in directions that don't make much sense. In an interview with Empire Magazine, director Colin Trevorrow said, for the franchise to be able to move forward, because it's inherently unfranchisable, there probably should have been only one Jurassic Park. But if we're gonna do it, How can I allow them to tell stories in a world in which dinosaurs exist, as opposed to, here's another reason why we're going to an island? I specifically did something different than the other films in order to change the DNA of the franchise. The previous 5 films are plots about dinosaurs. This one is a story about characters in a world in which they coexist with dinosaurs. So while I'll give him some credit for trying something new, this world in which humans and dinosaurs coexist isn't very interesting. So what you end up with is a movie that tries to tell a story that is far less interesting and so much more convoluted than you'd expect, and it looks even worse when you compare it to the original Jurassic Park. In Dominion, you've got Louis Dodgson, the CEO of Biosyn, a character who was actually in the original movie. So Biosyn created the Locusts, and they're eating all the crops, except the ones that were grown with Biosyn seeds. Then you have this whole storyline with Maisie, where she gets kidnapped and sold to Biosyn because Dr. Wu, who turned out to be a bad guy, is now trying to be a good guy who wants to use her to stop the Locusts somehow. And this is when she finds out that not only is she a clone of her mother, which was established in the last film, but she actually wasn't created by her grandfather after her mother died. She was actually created by her mother. So her mom impregnated herself and gave birth to herself. This is a dinosaur movie franchise. It's amazing how all of this turned into such a complete mess. The original Jurassic Park was able to explain things concisely and in such a manner that anyone could understand. Even as a kid, I understood it. But ever since Fallen Kingdom, we've gone back and forth about who this person is, who she's related to, who she's a clone of, and now who actually cloned her? Who cares? And now I guess she's the key to stopping Dodgson's evil bug plan. Another character who is completely uninteresting. Even the original movie knew that.
Dodgson! We've got Dodgson here! See, nobody cares.
In Jurassic Park, the characters were completely vulnerable. They acted like real people. They made mistakes. They were not well equipped to handle the extreme set of circumstances they were faced with. They had to utilize whatever knowledge or skills they had in order to survive the situation. And not everybody did. That's what made the movie so intense and engaging. In Dominion, the characters are all action heroes. There's a scene here that acts like a callback to the T-Rex scene in Jurassic Park, but it really only highlights just how inferior this is to the original. There's a part where Ian Malcolm, just like in the original, distracts the dinosaur. In Jurassic Park, he uses a flare. Alan tells him to throw it away. The T-Rex keeps chasing him, and he ends up getting badly injured for the rest of the movie. In Jurassic World Dominion, he uses a torch, which he then throws into the mouth of the dinosaur, which starts breathing fire, and he easily escapes. In Jurassic Park, Alan told him to freeze. He didn't. That was his mistake. He tried to be a hero, he didn't know what he was doing, and he paid for it.
What's this? What's error 99?
Good news, guys. There's no need to worry about anything anymore because I've got Owen's magic hand. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't very easy. He did not want to part with it, so I did have to knock him out with a hammer. But the point is, I've got the hand now. So no matter what happens, we're good. If any dinosaurs try to kill us, we can just be like, whoa, hold up, and they'll stop. At least that's what I've been led to believe would happen.
Of course.
See? She gets it. A lot of times, Dominion feels kind of like a lame James Bond movie with dinosaurs. You got the crappy evil villain with an evil plan in a hideout, which may or may not be Apple Park. And when I say crappy villain, I'm not just talking about the fact that the character's completely uninteresting. Get a load of this. This guy's plan was to modify the global food supply, and once he realizes that he has to destroy the evidence so that he doesn't get caught, he goes to the Locust chamber, which has been designed specifically to incinerate everything, but somehow the locusts escape, and this sparks wildfires all over the place. But wait, that's not the best part. He goes to his computer and drags the top secret files into the trash bin. Wow, what a criminal mastermind. This is foolproof. And at some point or another, it feels like everyone's a spy in this movie. After they get to the Biosyn campus, Ian Malcolm orders a cappuccino so that the sound of the steam will cover up him telling Ellie to go into a lab where they keep the locusts, and gives her a security bracelet. Then they go into the restricted area and are able to collect a sample from the locusts, and this is where they run into Maisie right after they have their awkward romantic moment. There is so much stupid crap crammed into this movie, it's unbelievable. At one point they go to Malta where they have to, I don't know, bribe a hobo to open a secret passage that leads to some kind of a black market where they have dino cockfights. And after this sequence where some dinosaurs get loose and Owen uses his magic hand technique, this guy is literally getting his arms chewed off, yet he's able to coherently answer Owen's questions of where to find the kidnapped clone girl. Just reading it sounds ridiculous, but this is what actually happens. I'm not just making this up. Then there's this fight scene between Claire and, I don't remember her name. It's another villain. There are so many characters in this movie. And I swear to God, it felt like I was watching the Bourne Ultimatum with dinosaurs. These characters aren't people. It's like they have cheat codes turned on. They're invincible. At one point, they crash a plane into a frozen lake or whatever, and then they just hop out as if nothing ever happened. Not a scratch. They're not even wet. And this is the big problem. Throughout this movie, there's never really any sense that the characters are actually under any real threat. And this is where the difference between these two movies is very apparent. One is an action movie where the characters are more than capable of fighting off these creatures, no matter how big they are. The other is more like a thrilling survival horror movie where the focus is on just trying to escape from these unstoppable killing machines. And this is something that Jurassic Park did incredibly well. In Jurassic Park, the characters are constantly getting stuck or confined and then met with a threat that gets within inches. If they manage to escape, you're left with the feeling that they barely made it. And I say if because not all the characters did.
Clever girl.
Now, I think the death of Muldoon is actually really important because it's the one that creates the most uncertainty in the minds of the audience in regards to the survival of the other characters. I mean, it's a PG-13 movie, so the audience knows that the kids aren't going to get torn apart and there's a 99% chance that both Ellie and Alan survive. So how do you keep the audience on the edge of their seats? Well, by showing that even the dinosaur expert can be outsmarted and killed. It communicates to the audience just how dire the situation is. I mean, this is someone who should have an extremely high chance of survival. So his death definitely comes as a surprise and a shock. It's unexpected. And it raises the question, even if it's in the back of your mind, if he can be killed, then who can't? Once the dinosaurs get loose, the movie creates an atmosphere of almost constant danger. I mean, there's a couple of short breaks here and there, but then it's right back to it. And during this time, there's the feeling that no character is off limits to at least getting injured. I mean, they electrocuted one of the kids. At the end of Dominion, Dodgson dies, as you would expect, but all the other characters, all 9 of them, are perfectly fine. And at no point in the movie was there ever a single second where you had any doubt of that. And how does the whole thing end? Well, Dr. Wu fixes the locust problem, and the humans and the dinosaurs continue to coexist. Jurassic Park was a movie that had some interesting discussions on ethics, and in the end, the message was pretty clear, that playing God can lead to disaster. But the ending of Dominion basically says, yeah, no, actually, it's okay, really. Not that big a deal, everything's fine. We're all gonna sing Kumbaya, and the dinosaurs are just gonna get along with all the other animals. Like, give me a break. It's weird because this is a movie that has so much going on. It tries to do so much, but then ends up doing nothing. Jurassic Park, on the other hand, in many ways is the total opposite. The story is not very complicated, but the way in which it's told is so captivating. For me, the best part of watching Dominion was that it made me look back and compare these two movies. And in doing so, I gained even more appreciation for the original. When this movie came out, it was a major cinematic achievement that completely surpassed expectations. It combined visual effects, practical effects, and incredible sound design to bring dinosaurs to life in a way audiences had never seen before. At the time, CGI had been used in movies, but obviously not to the degree that it is today. Creating the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park was a huge undertaking that required the use of CGI, since there were some shots where it just wasn't possible to use practical effects.
I initially wanted to make all the dinosaurs full size, and that of course was just my wishful thinking.
But visual effects alone don't make Jurassic Park a classic movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, these were jaw-dropping when this movie came out 30 years ago. And it's also not just the practical effects that were done so incredibly well that they still hold up today. It's the combination of those effects to capture both scale and realism, along with Spielberg's direction and experience to know how and when to use them, as well as, believe it or not, when not to. Spielberg knew from making Jaws that you can create a monster in the minds of the audience without actually showing it on screen. Using the audience's own imagination can be an incredibly effective way to build suspense leading up to the reveal. Look at the very first scene of Jurassic Park. This sequence manages to convey just how powerful and incredibly dangerous the raptor is without even really showing it. Here's another example of this. The scene when they feed the raptors, you don't see them, but the sound and the visuals are more than enough to tell you just how vicious they are. And that's not all. I would argue that the most iconic moment, not just from Jurassic Park, but from the entire franchise, doesn't even feature a dinosaur. I think it's this. Everybody knows what this is, what it means, and what it's from. This was actually the hardest special effect to achieve in the entire movie, and if you want to know how they did it, I'll tell you at the end of the video. This whole sequence builds the suspense of the arrival of the T-Rex by constantly giving the audience information. The impact tremor, showing that the goat is missing, that the power's off, the fence is being broken. And I talked about this a few videos ago, but here is another great example of building suspense by giving the audience information that the characters don't have. It's the sequence when they're climbing the fence while Ellie is turning the power back on. Ellie doesn't know that Tim is on the fence, but the audience does, and we're forced to sit there and watch as the movie cuts back and forth as she gets closer and closer to turning on the electricity. Spielberg knew how to keep you glued to your seat even without the dinosaurs on screen. Now, is it even fair to compare these two movies? I think so. It's interesting to see how two blockbuster movies from the same franchise, separated by 3 decades, are so different from each other. Jurassic Park is a movie full of suspense that keeps you engaged. It's not overly complicated and it's extremely well executed. Jurassic World Dominion is a movie where it never really feels like the stakes are all that high. It throws a bunch of stuff at you that only ends up leaving you wondering just what the hell the point of it all was. You could make the argument that Dominion is more appropriate for families and younger audiences, since it's not as intense as Jurassic Park, and while I would definitely agree that it's not as scary, this plot does not seem like it would be something that kids would understand or find interesting. Now, some may say that this is a movie about the technology and the people who created the dinosaurs in the first place. After all, that's the real threat. They're the real monsters. And, okay, fine, but unfortunately, it's just not interesting. For me, it's easily the worst movie in the franchise, but I have no reason to believe that they won't make more of these movies at some point in the future, because it's one of the most profitable franchises of all time, grossing over $6 billion. But that's pretty much it for this one. As usual, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time. So, I'm not sensing a lot of appreciation here, and I'm gonna be honest, it's a little hurtful.
Wait, who's this now?
Excuse me? I have been here the whole time? Seriously? Okay, look, I know there's a lot of characters in this movie, but try and keep up. I'm the guy with the magic hand now. I think that deserves a thank you? At least a high five? Is that too soon? That's probably too soon, right? So So in order to create this special effect, they actually had to drill a hole through the car and attach guitar strings to the cups, run them down through the hole, and pluck them to hit the right frequency that Spielberg wanted. Do you know how boring Jurassic Park would have been if the power went out, the dinosaurs all got loose, and all Alan Grant had to do was just hold out his hand and wait for the helicopter to pick them up?
Some black boys, some black boys.